so this lesson is to show you how to use the formula for circumference of circles. You should have developed this formula last year, but if not, I'll try to find a YouTube video that explains it and post it up there. So again, this is just the how, not the why. Circumference, just remember, is the distance around a 2D figure. So it's kind of like perimeter, except it's around a curved surface, so we give it a different name. Curved surface. This kind of sounds like circumference. Not really, but they both start with a C. So what you're looking for is the distance around something, like a Coke can, or the distance of one rotation of a wheel. The metal rim on a basketball goal, if you think about what a basketball goal looks like. Okay, so the distance around that. So just a few reminders. A circle is the set of all points in a plane that are exactly the same distance away from another point. And so those infinite points make up what we call a circle. Of course, the circumference is the distance around that circle. The diameter will go through the center and touch each side of the circle. So from end to end of the circle, going through the center. The radius goes through the center, or touches the center, but only touches one side of the circle. So that radius is half of whatever the diameter is. Okay, so our formula, we have two. One is pi d. And when we use pi d, that's when we have the diameter. If we have the radius, we use a separate formula. So when we find the circumference of a circle with diameter of 7.5, we are going to take our formula, plug in 3.14, or whatever value they tell you to use for pi, and plug in our diameter, and then multiply. Sometimes they might give you a radius, and that formula is 2 pi r. It should make sense that it's 2r, because 2 times the radius equals the diameter. So they're really the same formula, it's just this one's more convenient when you have the radius. So in this case, here's our 2. This time they're telling us to plug in 22 over 7 for pi. I know you guys don't like fractions, but sometimes it's necessary that we need to plug those in. They told us the radius is 14, so I've plugged that in as well. And just as a reminder, when you multiply fractions, they all need to be improper. So all these go over 1. So you're going to multiply all of the top numbers and the bottom numbers. Bottom gives you 7, and then 2 times 22 times 14 gives you 616. Once you get them multiplied, then you divide. 616 divided by 7 is 88. So the circumference is about 88 inches. Now we do say about because remember, this is an approximation, and this is an approximation. Pi goes on forever and ever and ever as far as we know. So the only time we can get an exact answer when talking about circumference and area is whenever we leave pi in our equation. But you won't be dealing with that too much this year. This year we mostly concentrate on 22 over 7, 3.14, and occasionally just using 3. So on this, we have a radius. So I'm going to use the circumference equals 2 pi r. So the circumference is 2. I need to plug in something for pi. I'm going to use 3.14. And then my radius is 6. Now multiplication can be done in any order. So I would suggest multiplying your whole numbers first. That way you only have to deal with the decimal once. So 3.14 times 12. 4 times 2 is 8. 1 times 2 is 2. 3 times 2 is 6. Cross it out and put your placeholder. 1 times 4 is 4, 1 times 1 is 1, 3 times 1 is 3. 8, 6, 7, 3. There were 2 decimal places originally, so there need to be 2 decimal places in my answer. So that was feet. On our next one, they give us the diameter. So I need to use pi d. You could always use 2 pi r if you wanted to, but in that case, you would need to divide by 2 to find out what your radius is. And it kind of just, it adds an extra step that's really not necessary. So I would suggest just making sure you use the correct formula for the information you're given. So this is 3.14 again, and then the diameter this time is 20. So I'm going to multiply 3.14 times 20. 0, 0, 0, cross it out, put my placeholder. 4 times 2 is 8, 1 times 2 is 2, 3 times 2 is 6. I always like to fill in the extra 0 just to make sure everything lines up nicely, because that's what I see the most mistakes on with students, is that they misalign things and it ends up making them mess up on the addition part. There were 2 decimal places, so there should be 2 decimal places in my answer. So I get 62.80 centimeters. Or really, you could just put 62.8. So again, they give us the diameter. So our formula is going to be pi d. I'm going to use 3.14, and then the diameter was 3. So all I'm doing here is multiplying 3.14 times 3. So this one should be easier. It's going to be a 12, that's going to be a 4, and that's going to be a 9. 2 decimal places, 2 decimal places in my answer. So 9.42 inches. So that's all we have for today. Please make sure and complete the next couple practice pages in your workbook.